So, what is Ohio State really going to do for spring football? They got spring practice. They're going to have that. But the spring game basically has been canceled, like Nebraska's. Or is it going to be a spring showcase? Or is it going to be a scrimmage? Or is it going to be some sort of fan festival? Coach Ryan Day said that, he didn't want to do a regular spring game, like a regular game like they did last year. That was on national TV, by the way, because his Buckeyes have just played 16 games. And that's long for college students. And that was on their way to a national championship, of course. And he didn't want to put his team through another game. All right, I get it. Having said all of that, tickets are still being sold for some sort of ambiguous event in April. Now, this week, Ryan Day talked to the Columbus Dispatch, and he said, he still needs some more time to figure out what he wants to do. And they're gonna come up with something to cap off spring practice, but he just doesn't know yet. And he's a couple more weeks to figure it out. He says he does want the younger guys to feel what it's like to go to the stadium on a game day and get that feel, as opposed to waiting for the season opener in the fall against Texas in a huge game like that. So he kind of wants to get the guys. He's got a lot of young guys that have never played before. And so he said there's some value in setting up a game day situation at that big, humongous stadium, so that they're not, intimidated on the first day that they get to play and all that kind of stuff. So for the time being, Ryan Day says he just wants to see how the first couple of weeks of spring practice goes before making any decisions. Basically, he wants to make sure they get through it healthy, right? Like if he starts racking up injuries, he's going to probably tap the brakes on any kind of event there. But if they're healthy and everything's going well, it seems like he's opening his mind to doing something on that, and kind of we'll figure out what that is. But that's going to be a couple of weeks before he decides exactly what he wants to do. On a personal note, I like spring games, not only as a fan, but professionally. I like to get an early look on some of the new players. It helps me out, helps out this podcast. But I got a feeling that a lot of these spring games are going to be going by the wayside and become a thing of the past. In the meantime, by the way, people are still buzzing. If I may switch gears for a moment, talk a little basketball. People are still buzzing about Michigan State the other night, a couple of nights ago. Trey Holloman hit that 65-foot three-point heave from beyond the half-court logo. It was beyond that as Michigan State beat Maryland. The game was tied when he threw it up there, and they win 58-55. Even Tom Izzo says, yeah, that was a lucky shot. But he followed that by saying, well, our team overall deserved to win that game. So obviously he was glad it went in. Pretty good. I got a fun fact here for you for the Spartans. Obviously, they're in the midst of a great season here. But they did have a skid a little while back, right? When they lost 3 out of 4. That was the stretch where, look, every night Tom Izzo was chasing Bob Knight's all-time Big Ten wins mark. He just couldn't do it. They just kept losing, even to Indiana. Eventually they won games they needed to win, and he got the record. So congratulations. And just kind of icing on the cake to what's been a pretty strong season for Michigan State so far. They bounced back from that skid. They're back to their winning ways now. And so they've got 2 road wins against ranked teams. They also beat the Ducks and the Boilermakers at home. So they're beating some really quality teams here. And they really look like they're poised for the Big Ten tournament and, of course, March Madness and the NCAA tournament. So somebody pointed out on Twitter, and I found this. I'm not going to put this on Tuesday tweets. I want to talk about it right now. There are 10 major men's basketball teams that have won 7 or more road games this season. And there have been 10 major teams to win 5 games where they were an underdog this year. Only one team has done both. Michigan State. They're just winning on the road. Good teams, ranked teams, underdogs. They're just winning, putting it all together. They were underdogs in the Maryland game. I believe they were a 4.5-point dog in that game. They ended up winning by 3. Doesn't matter how it shapes up. Tom Izzo and the Spartans are looking pretty good. All right, so let's take a look at the schedule coming up. A lot of great basketball here this weekend. A lot of things I want to talk about here while we do it. Big Ten basketball tonight, men's basketball. UCLA is at 20th ranked Purdue. Matt Painter has lost 4 games in a row. He's going to lose 5. I mean, UCLA is good. Mick Cronin's got his team playing pretty well. That's at 8 o'clock Eastern. For you on the West Coast, UCLA fans, 5 o'clock Pacific tonight on Fox. So check that, the big Fox network. Also tonight, Iowa is at Northwestern, 9 p.m. Eastern on FS1. So we got some Friday night hoops to check out here. Saturday, 16th ranked Maryland is at Penn State. Maryland, obviously coming off the disappointment. They got to shake off that Michigan State loss. They were sorely disappointed there. At Penn State, Penn State has been struggling. They hung in there with Indiana on the road the other night, but they're one of the lower teams in the rankings for the Big Ten. So Maryland's looking to bounce back at Penn State. That is a noon game Eastern on Saturday on the Big Ten Network. Minnesota is at Nebraska. That's at 2 o'clock Eastern on the Big Ten Network. And then Southern Cal is at Oregon, a West Coast game. In the after, I think it's a 4:30 game. I'll have to double check that, but I think it's 4:30 game, Big Ten Network. And then, in fact, that is 4 o'clock, Big Ten Network. Indiana is at Washington. That's a long trip. 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, if you want to check it on the West Coast on Peacock. And Indiana, like I said, they just got by that game against Penn State. Malik Renew didn't play. Like, he was fine at shoot around and then got really ill, like had to be hospitalized. Haven't heard yet as of the taping of this podcast if he's like, got fluids and bounced back and whether he's going to make that trip to the West Coast of Washington. Maybe not. So we'll consider that when we do our basketball picks in just a minute. Also on Sunday, men's basketball. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be some must-see TV. 11th ranked Wisconsin. Well, was it last week? They lost an overtime game to Oregon. They are at Michigan State. Red hot Michigan State. That's a 1:30 game on CBS Eastern time. That's the game to watch. Again, no more football. We're 3 weekends away removed from football? I know you're still going through withdrawal with the NFL season done, but we got some great college basketball for you. Wisconsin at Michigan State, 1:30 on CBS. And then Illinois is at 15th ranked Michigan. That's a 3:45 game on CBS, so right after it. So doubleheader. Wisconsin, Michigan State, followed by Illinois at Michigan. And I don't know what kind of shape Illinois is in. They've had so many injuries and sickness. And then, they got pummeled by Duke. Was it 43, 47 points, something like that? 43, I think it was. It was bad. That was bad. All right, on to women's basketball over this weekend. Nothing tonight, Friday, but Saturday, we got Minnesota at 23rd ranked Michigan State. That's at 2 p.m. Eastern on Big Ten Plus. The big game for women's basketball might be all of basketball, to be honest. Number 4, USC with Juju Watkins taking on number 2, UCLA at Pauley's, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, Saturday on Fox, the big network. By the way, speaking of Juju Watkins, she just landed another name, image, and likeness endorsement with United Airlines. Her middle name is Skies. Juju Skies Watkins. I mean, it's a great basketball name. It's a great airline name. Whatever. In fact, that's the ad. It's a picture of her in her uniform holding a basketball underneath a 727 United Airlines airplane. And it's got her name up big, Juju Sky Watkins, and in parentheses, yeah, that really is her name. It's good. It's a cool ad. She's racking up all these deals. She got deals with Chipotle, State Farm, NYX Makeup, Nike, Gatorade, Spotify. Her nil value is estimated to be around $765,000. That's not a bad way to make a living if you're a 20-year-old kid. That's awesome. She's averaging 24 points a game and 7 rebounds, and the Trojans are 25-2 going into that UCLA game. So that'd be one worth watching. Again, that's Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific on Fox. Sunday, women's hoops. We got Michigan at Illinois, 1:30 Eastern on the Big Ten Network. Penn State is at Rutgers. That's a 2 o'clock Eastern. Indiana, Purdue. That's always big, men or women. 2 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. Nebraska at Northwestern at 3 o'clock. And Wisconsin is at Iowa. Iowa's still a big deal, even though no Caitlin Clark. 4 o'clock Eastern on Peacock. And then a top 25 matchup between number 12, Ohio State, and number 19, Maryland. That's 4:30 on Fox. And Oregon is at Washington for a West Coaster. 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific on Sunday. All right, those are the games. I'm going to pick a handful of those games, those great basketball games, kind of the best of the best. And we're going to go on the record because that's what we do here. We're going to go on the record. We're going to make our picks. And I'll have all that for you and send you off into the weekend right here on Locked On Big Ten. Speaking of picks, how about PrizePicks? March basketball, and you can get into the action with PrizePicks. Best way for to play for daily fantasy sports with PrizePicks. Here's what you do. You pick players, you put them together, as few as 2 players, maybe a few more, and then say more than or less than with specific stats for those games. Player projections, if you will. You get them right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, it's easy. It keeps every game even more exciting. You build your lineup. For example, you could say, I'm looking at Jason Tatum, more than 29 points, and Karl Anthony Towns, more than 12 rebounds, and Kyrie Irving, more than 7 assists. Put all 3 together. They all hit. Bam. Awesome. PrizePicks even offers weekly promos like Taco Tuesday, where you get discounted player projections for even more value. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On College. That's the code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. It's PrizePicks. PrizePicks. Run your game.